100 parts in the making. It's time for the Civ Battle Royale! My name is Dawkinzz, and let's get right into this. Part 100, I can't believe it, it's the Centennial. Hello, I am Rian Monteris. With me are Limerick Archer and Lunar Needle, and we are here to bring you part 100 of the CBR. We're so excited that you have stuck with us this far and hope that you continue to enjoy the CBR. There is still plenty of exciting events to come, many of which are in this expanded part, which has come in at a grand total of 125 slides and a full 30 turns. Whoa, boy. In this part, the Centennial part of the CBR Mark II, we should take a moment to look back at days long gone. The Civ ball map of the world from Part 6 shows how many fallen Civs we have lost and how far some of our current contenders have come, with nations like Korea and Sweden coming up from behind to live as long and be as powerful as they are, shows that in a game like this, anything can happen. Hello, this is Limerick Archer, or Lime as I'm more commonly known. I'll be narrating this first batch of slides before passing the baton to another comrade. Let's get started with the power rankings. The Boars stay at the top for another week. Will they ever be deposed from their orange throne? Another beautiful map from user spherical_melon. Yeah, you can get his name right if you look for him. Be sure to pore over all of the finer details and familiarize yourself before we get started, because this is definitely going to change. And here with the tile-accurate map by Der Erlingkönig, we see border gore galore. Alright, enough introduction, let's get this party started. What better way than with the capture of Yerevan, the Armenian capital? Content with their capital in hand, Sabir leaves Armenia to rot in the poor four-tile city of Gaza, which doesn't even appear to have a courthouse. So much for justice. I suspect this is the last we'll see of Tiridates until a nearby Civ decides to absorb the warmonger penalty. Perhaps the Boars could add it to their new collection of cities in the Middle East. I count 3 new ones in this shot already. Also, as a disclaimer, when I make predictions, they are purely how I would view this part as a first-time reader. There are no hidden spoilers, so I wouldn't bother overanalyzing my outlandish claims. Not much has changed here in the Sweden-Iceland war. Both sides seem to have a large crop of new recruits, so I suspect the flippy-floppy will go on for a while. In other news, why in the world did the Boars have so many units in the Black Sea? Further, at least 8 of those air units are missiles. Are they nuking Vietnam from all the way up here, or are they just planning their next integration? Reykjavik flips twice and Sweden keeps Cologne. I would wager Cologne is permanently theirs now based on the wide expanse of neon green in the way, although there is a singular line of workers that could act as an avenue. Brazilian units seem to be preventing any land attack on Keflavik, and the Icelandic Navy appears large and intimidating enough to scare off any Inuit attacks. Speaking of that Navy, St. Louis appears like it might flip, because I see some nearby melee units, but why would anybody ever want to go to St. Louis anyway? Right here, 7 is the number of Inuit settlers on this slide, 1 is the number of potential settling spots, the southern tip of Nova Scotia, which is currently occupied by a Brazilian paratrooper. Mongolia, Korea, Kimberley, Blackfoot, and Brazilian units are all watching as Australia and Vietnam continue to beat their heads against each other in futility. Rugby, anyone? We return to South India, where Vietnam reclaims Trincomalee from the Boers, although it may be short-lived considering there are a couple of Boer units sitting on the doorstep. There may also be a potential of a Sri Lankan snipe. A couple of eagle-eyed observers noticed that Sri Lanka has denounced Vietnam last part. Maybe they're trying to eye some good opportunities, but we all know that the Blackfoot are the best snipers in this game. The Boers continue to repopulate the Middle East as a couple more cities are shown off here. Cougar appears to be getting friendly with every Civ on the cylinder as I spot open borders or trading with Sri Lanka, Hawaii, Finland, Sweden, Iceland, and the Boers. themselves? Don't worry, a couple of tweaks are made in the future to correct this friendly behavior. Also of interest is the conga line of 10 boats floating in a row on the Red Sea, all oriented in exactly the same direction. Coincidence? No. Sweden retakes Constantinople in their last gasp attempt to secure as many cities as possible before the encroaching wave of Brazilian troops overtake everything. Well, so much for my claims about Cologne being unequivocally Swedish. It's also curious to note how many Swedish cities have been nuked to oblivion. Hamburg, Oslo, and Berlin are all obvious examples, but I'm sure others have also tasted the nuclear rain. A look at the Swedish core reveals some of Gustavus's idiocy. 10 settlers and not hardly any land military to fight their ongoing wars. At least they settled a new city, right? Jönköping. Jönköping, new favorite city. Part 100 is surely the cause for this sub's golden age, but who cares? Let's get to the new war. Or not yet. Which idiot called these slides? Oh wait, that's me. But actually, I think this slide is quite interesting because it shows that not only are the Inuit willing to send their massive navy far and away, whereas the Boers are more homebodies, but also the Inuit have much better naval biases. Their fleet consists predominantly of arsenal ships, which are significantly stronger than the Boer alternative of cyber subs. For real though, on to the war. At first glance, Sibir appears to outnumber Sweden, but then you realize it's mostly workers and the weaker robotic infantry. As if to accentuate that detail, Sweden quickly spins around and captures Gothenburg, while they deal massive damage to Moscow, Antioch, Jelaskavlachafrafra, and Vasa. The trend continues up north, where Tampere, Linköping, and Longyearbyen are fallen into the red from an aerial barrage, while every single Swedish city in this slide remains untouched. Where are you and what are you doing, Kuchum? Gustavus's fleet starts pouring out of the northern seas, descending on without any Siberian resistance. This is the perfect chance for the AI naval showcase. Come on, Gustavus, you've already proven that you can perfectly pull off the land blitzkrieg. Bye-bye, Messine. Never fear, Ingelfer has already prepared by wisely building a settler in Sparta. Genius move, better hope it doesn't get nuked to oblivion again. Flip, flop, flip, flop. The best city, find it in eastern Britain, takes some scattered damage from stray Swedish aircraft. Otherwise, it's still locked in a dead heat. A Brazilian cyber sub bravely enters the DMZ, hoping to slip unnoticed below the constant firing above them as the Lion of the North and his brother, the aristocratic wolf, blast missiles at each other at high velocity. Note, Ingelford translates to aristocratic wolf if you were wondering. I didn't know that. Thanks. Australia regains a foothold on the mainland again with the capturing of Panduranga. As we've seen in other parts of the world, peacekeepers are causing Vietnamese generals extreme consternation as they carpet Southeast Asia.
Come in. We've briefly gotten a hold of communication. Get us out of this frozen hut. Mao shall live forever.
Vietnam takes Panduranga back, but Australia's still the pestilence that won't go away, capturing Thaili B. Nai. Kimberley peacekeepers stand by and watch the war go on. The Boers' expansive front of biotroopers stares at the Himalayas. Most of them appear fortified as they contemplate how to scale the mountains. While they're thinking, a robot infantry captures Balk for the Kruger war machine, and Vietnam retakes Peshawar. It appears Peshawar flipped off-screen a couple of times as they're down quite a bit of population since we last saw them. Gustavus captures Vasa, but judging by the mechanized artillery and biotroopers, I wouldn't hold out a whole lot of hope. Aw, look how cute, it's Gaza. They have 5 tiles now, 12 citizens, and not only are they so developed, they're obviously quite willing to spread their culture of cuteness with the rest of the world, judging by the 4 specialists and guilds. Ah, Armenia. You're cute. Yeah, you read the notification right. Apparently the Boers aren't so chummy with everyone on the cylinder. In all seriousness, though, a Boer-Sabir war would cause a ton of damage. The two share a wide border and could potentially lead to a Boer escapade into Asia proper. Intriguing. A Siberian convoy stumbles into the Middle East, quietly sneaking behind the Swedish guard to hop the river into Hebron. Befuddled, Swedish units stand and stare and produce more settlers. The same tactics also appear to work in Tigranasrta as the city falls to Sibir. Also in the northern corner, Iceland retakes Constantinople from Sweden. I bet you forgot that war was still being fought. Gothenburg turns gray again while Vasa flips twice and joins the One Pop City Club. Sweden has a whole bunch of units down south. I think Sibir might have bitten off more than they can chew. Sure, they're winning in city counts, but I'm not sure how long that's going to last. In the bottom left corner of this slide, the new city of Sundsvall makes an appearance. It was actually founded a couple of turns ago, but we get our first real shot of its terrible positioning between two mountains. In the north, Gustavus makes a strong push through a bunch of weak cities, claiming Stalingrad and Kuopio, seemingly permanently based on the paucity of nearby military units. Well, goodbye, Tajia. You will be immediately forgotten and replaced by another Swedish settler. The only debate now is which settler will make it to the prime spot first. And what will that city be called? Probably something frickin' ridiculous. Constantinople and Gothenburg switch back to Sweden. I want to make more They Might Be Giant jokes, but can't do it. Perhaps in retribution for the brutal citadeling of Kazan and Almarik, Genghis Khan denounces Kuchum Khan. Are they related? I don't know. I'm pretty sure all of Sibir's neighbors have either denounced them or are at war, yet somehow the old gray menace holds on. The Boers found Cupertilla only for it to be immediately flattened by the Vietnamese Air Force. Boer biotroopers are still wondering how to climb mountains. Here's a hint. Start or go around. Wow, 4 cities flip in this war. All of them are now at 1 population. Will someone just throw a nuke and get them out of here? They're ruined shells anyway. Surely no one lives there anymore, right? Ah, thank goodness. Finally, the cylinder understands the plight of the seals. They've been carted around like some luxury, forced to perform beach ball tricks and honk on some damn horns or be a dumb animal in some American movie. It's good to see the world begin to care about the nature they live in and thrive off of it. But I spy something else that has me wanting to club something, and it's peace. We don't want any of that on this cylinder. So there you have it. The Boers in Vietnam come to terms as Vietnam decides to forfeit a pile of cities for peace, including the useless one-tile island named Ambon. Funny enough, it happens to control a singular tile on the coast of Southeast Asia, causing many a mapmaker to tear their eyes out with the continued border gore. We pan north where Vietnam has finally struck back against the Australian menace, retaking Haiphong and Bien Hao. Perhaps they'll have the chance to completely expel Parks now that the Trung sisters are finished being stomped all over by Kruger. Speaking of getting stomped on, Kruger somehow receives the massive city of Lahore, while Vietnam keeps the useless Peshawar. But wait, there's even more. Yep, the Boers also received this Lahore as well. They're quite the sluts. Trincomalee, Polonnaru, Vavuniya, Kalumnai, Gali, Colombo, Pathan, and Sri Lanka, Jayawarta, blah 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 in the peace deal. That's 10 cities, in which a grand total of 105 million citizens are living. For reference, in that peace deal, Kruger received an entire Sweden, 2 Finlands, and 2 Armenias in the form of citizens. They also received another little juicy prize, that Colombo has the statue of Zeus, which gives plus 15% combat advantage against cities. Should we call it GG now, or do we wait until the Brazilians spring their trap and take over the world? That's really the only thing stopping the Boers now. Speaking of the Brazilian carpet, it continues to expand at an alarming rate, overtaking France and most of Germany now. And speaking of Germany, Iceland sneaks around and takes the city of Hamburg. Good for them. The Iceland Inuit showdown ends with about as much flair as it was fought. Not a whole lot. The Inuit come away with 4 more cities to add to their snowy collection, but there wasn't any massive collapse of Iceland as we predicted. But they do have a foothold on Greenland, which is something. They are now spanning across a couple of continents. So the Inuit are doing pretty good. The terms of peace become more clear. Iceland is sending ridiculous amounts of gold to the Inuit for them to do approximately nothing with it because they can just surround themselves with all the gold snow they want. As a final parting shot, we get a view of the other Inuit Iceland front that's been closed off for now. With that, my time with you has come to a close. It's been a pleasure to narrate this first third of the narration, so please keep on reading through. Or listening, hahaha. It only gets better. Make sure to watch out for the ridiculously large DC coming out on Friday and visit to the info sheet. It's almost completely up to date, and if you're interested in making sure it stays there, please PM me, and I'm open to have more help. Au revoir. Hello, this is user Rion Monteris, and I will be your guide for these next few slides of the part. As the war between the Inuit and Iceland closes, the other front with the perennial underdog Sweden slowly becomes more and more clogged up with Brazilian vacationers. It seems like it will be difficult for either party to make any more headway here. From one peacekeeper clogged front to another, we shift to Australia versus Vietnam, where it looks like the Blackfoot and Kimberley peacekeepers are making it difficult for Australia to seal the deal. We shift back to East Brazil, where we see that this next turn has the brutal methods of the Swedish Air Force at work. Interestingly, they choose to reduce cities to 0 HP before moving to the next. A lone Australian robot infantry stands near Malmo, real-world Denmark, watching the effects of the Brazilian vacationers on the front and transmitting it directly back to Henry Parks' supercomputer center for analysis. Looking at the clearer front now, between Sweden and Sibir, we can see Sweden has finally achieved tech parity with its snowbound counterpart, at least when it comes to biotroopers. It seems Sweden is favoring an attack on Stalingrad, while Sibir is looking to take Akrafum. The party on the sub slows down for a bit as our most recent golden age ends. Babylonians are passed out in the hallways, sleeping by the light of monitors displaying the constant destruction going on around them. They will not sleep long, however, as there is still much more to come. Vietnam pushes forward in the north, isolating Rakjia and potentially cutting it off from Aussie reinforcements. The vast Korean Navy looks on from near Seoul. Whether they are sleeping or plotting, no one is really sure. Northern Anatolia sits in Sibir hands while Iceland holds Constantinople, the ever-flipped former capital of the Byzantines. A Siberian expeditionary force pushes in towards Gothenburg and Antioch, and you can see the Brazilian vacationers start to spill in from the left. Moving north, the Swedes are making a move on Moscow, hoping to take back the former USSR capital and destroy whatever air unit is currently stored there. A significant Siberian worker army stands at the ready to repair improvements as the front moves forward, restoring services and amenities to the few remaining citizens in the area. Come on, they need their high-speed internet. One of our spies gives us a look into the Mongolian city of Dawkinzz. That's how you pronounce it, I looked it up. Where Mongolia seems to be building an implant clinic. It is of debatable usefulness, considering it adds 1 gold and 1 hammer for each 4 citizens, meaning it will add 2 gold and 2 hammers to this. A 9-citizen city. It is still growing, however, which is good for Mongolia as it, in its entirety, contains a similar number of citizens as the Hawaiian city-state. Panning back south, we can see the no-man's land between Vietnam and Australia in the southeast of Asia. Some units are attempting to make the crossing, but it is unlikely that they shall live. You can, of course, see the notification on the screen, though. That's right, someone finally decided to put the hurt on the Kimberley. Here we can see that the forward operating bases that will be used to station air units to fight the war. Recently gained from Vietnam in a peace deal, these cities are still not even out of resistance yet. Ah, man, the Boers are such bullies. I don't like bullies. While the large number of Kimberley troops stocked up in Vietnam will most likely prove useful in fighting Kruger, the Kimberley Navy is also quite large and spread out, although seemingly lacking in any melee units. Panning back to Eastern Europe, we can see that the Swedish push on Moscow has been defeated, but the push for Stalingrad continues, with a carrier stationed offshore providing air cover for the advancing troops. Looking over Greece, we can see that the border gore is strong here, with Sibir and Bor exclaves bordering strange one-tile-wide claims by Sweden and Iceland. Hopefully someone can come along and clean this up, although with Brazilian vacationers streaming in from the west, it may be some time before this front will see any action again. Unless the Brazilians declare war on somebody, that would be good. On to the next turn, as we can see that Sweden's push for Stalingrad was successful, although the city is surrounded by Siberian units looking to take it back. In a surprise move, it looks like Sweden was also able to pick up Moscow, at least for the moment. Siberian units have advanced into Swedish interior, almost reaching Minsk, so things could change, people. This area's return to peace was short-lived as the Kimberley paratroopers drop in looking to cause as much damage to Kruger as possible and prevent him from moving troops via this route to take Kimberley cities. The paratroopers find it difficult to fight against the highly advanced biotroopers of the Boers, however, and they're getting crushed. They're just getting crushed. I mean, these cities are getting crushed. Weak, recently taken cities, but still. Surrounding both Sri Jayawawa Booby Boppy Bhupan Dakota and Pathien, Kimberley forces move to take the cities and free them from Skynet's control. The Trung sisters look on from afar, wishing their southern neighbor the best in capturing these former cities of theirs, but most likely are secretly plotting to grab them back in some future conflict with the Kimberley. A Boer invasion force moves towards the Kimberley capital of Wollongara. At 49 population, a city flip of Wollongara would be one of the most devastating single population losses of the cylinder to date. On the flip side, the Kimberley have bombed Middelburg down to almost 0 health. If they can move a melee ship up, they could reasonably flip the city and put some hurt on Kruger, at least in this small part of his vast empire. Moving back to Asia, we can see the push to cut off Rakjia is holding, although the city has taken no damage as of yet. In the south, robot infantry and mobile SAMs face off against each other, trying to grind the front in their favor. Looking even further south, Panduranga is held by Australia at low health, and with a Vietnamese mobile SAM moving in, it may soon be green and red once again. Sri Jayawardenapura Kote falls. Yeah, that's right, I got it. Yeah, whatever, Rian. The Kimberley well outnumber the Boers on this front at the moment, so it would not be surprising to see Pathien fall as well. Kimberley cybersubs also move in to sink the Boer navy around Colombo, the former capital of Sri Lanka. If they are able to make any moves at all, and if they can take any city, it should be Colombo, and then peace out, do whatever you can, sell every other city. Just get the statue of Zeus out of Kruger's hands. Constantinople and Ohrid fall back into Swedish hands, and a small force of biotroopers push towards Tigran-Acerta, which is currently undefeated and at 0 health. More north, we can see several Siberian troops making a sea crossing to take Antioch. A brief look at the recently Boer city of Trincomalee shows that almost all of the buildings were destroyed by Vietnam before retreating. Ouch. With only 1 population at the moment, the city is currently working hard to rebuild its harbor and re-establish its connection to the sea. A look back in the Australian-Vietnam front shows that Australia has managed to push in and take Thaili Bi Nai. Unless the unit hiding behind the nearby carrier is a melee unit, Vietnam will have a tough time recovering it due to all of the Kimberley units in the way. The Aussies also break through at Bien Hao and re-establish a path to Rakjia. With Brazilian and Blackfoot units in the area, it will be hard for Vietnam to push through and recapture these cities as well. Man, they can't catch a break. Moving west, it seems the inevitable has happened, and Pathien has fallen to the Kimberley as well. So bold they are in their strategy that they have landed troops outside of Gali, even though the city has not yet been damaged. The Kimberly are technically beating the Boers right now, guys. Moscow falls back to Sibir, and they pick up Tampere as well. This front is insanely back and forth, with each civ pushing the other back almost every other turn, but looking at the number of Swedish units near the front on this slide compared to the number of Siberian ones, it may be that Gustavus' time has come to an end. Or Kuchum Khan will allow Sweden to rebuild because they love being stuck in stalemates, as we've seen for the last 298 million turns, where they were at that point with Vietnam. The turns keep coming this part as we pan back to Southeast Asia, where Vietnam has managed to navigate a path through all of the peacekeepers to take back both Thaili Binai and Panduranga. Somehow in the process, however, an Australian biotrooper managed to slip through and take Amaravati. With no reinforcements, however, it seems the city will quickly fall back to Vietnam. Back on the Sweden-Sibir front, we can see that either Tigran Acerta flipped twice or the Swedish attack was bombed out by air units. They have managed to flip Jyväskylä, however, although with a robot infantry right outside, it may not be for long. In the north, Vasa and Akrafuam also fall, pushing the line even further west than before. It does look like Sweden has materialized another army out of nowhere, however, and seems to be primed to push the line back again. We arrive at my last slide for the part, a lovely look at the current attitudes each civ has towards each other. The toggles are set to focus on hostile and guarded to avoid the giant green mess that friendly brings. We can see double red lines between most of the active wars as expected, but more interestingly is the red-orange combo between the Blackfoot and Hawaii. Could this lead to us pressing F for Hawaii soon? And what does the orange line between Vietnam and Sri Lanka foretell? You'll just have to stay tuned to find out. At the very least, it represents potential fun between Sibir and Korea. Oh wait, yeah, Mongolia's in the way. At least we'll trade the super strategic valuable cities in the Arctic. Amga, your time is up. And Rian's time was up too, so that just leaves me, Lunar Needle, alone to narrate the rest. Now I would grovel over being alone, but I do believe I have the best portion available, so let's continue. After all, isn't the most impactful punch the punch that knocks someone down? After the shock and awe campaign, it seems like the front has relatively stabilized. Sweden's weaker units in greater numbers square off against Siberian better units of smaller numbers in the relatively flat land of Eastern Europe. In the European theater, we can very easily see flips. And with nuclear devastation no doubt emitting from the nuke-happy Sibir, we could be seeing many cities from this slide alone disappearing from the continued chaos. Expect Vasa to ignite with the flames of war. While it seems like Sweden is choked here, don't fret, for the same problem that allowed Australia and Brazil to cloak the world is in effect here, and considering their neighbors aren't likely to have open borders, it will likely flood to the eastern front. However, it seems pretty unlikely, as the requirement for that to happen is a garrison in each city, and almost every city here is lacking a garrison. Come on, Gustavus, I switched my flair for you. Either clear open borders and abuse the relocation bug for access, oh so generously provided to you, or don't. Side note, what in the world, Brazil? Drone UAVs? Come on, if you're going to carpet it right, just do it correctly. Yep, there's an alarming number here, so yeah. An Australian paratrooper sits in the demilitarized husk of the two major powers, staring down each other with planes and dreams, allowing the coast of Sweden to be slowly but surely occupied by the Brazilian Navy. Come on, game. Upon the reboot, you had absolutely no navy, and now you have a navy so large it's capable of looking like a defensive force on the exact opposite side of the cylinder? Where are you playing at, Pedro? Who's really in charge? Who's that little man that looks exactly like you nearby? What will happen when the green curtain falls? Everyone's favorite vacation home gets visited by the Boers, who still seem determined to take every single city they can reach. It doesn't seem likely that this city will flip more than once, but due to the wonders in the Boers' possession and the Palti forces accumulating in the vacation home, I expect millions if not billions of people to erupt once the city flip, and not much more. Bunker down, vacationers. We promise you that the Boer Reich will be swift, sudden, and far more stable than in the hands of the Kimberly. And hey, according to the brochure here that they dropped on you, you'll be getting free iPads too, so that's pretty cool. For real though, can anyone here actually estimate how many people would be lost if the city lost a third of its population? I guess we'll have to wait for the inevitable, won't we? Brazil, you've done it! Being controlled by Kamehameha, Brazil's peacekeepers succeeded at another mission, forcing a war front that could have been exciting to a boring standstill. Sweden ends up holding Constantinople and maintaining many of its fronts, while it seems that Iceland is losing ground on theirs. And this isn't even factoring in the amount of citadels flooding the hollowed-out city of Cologne. It's unlikely, with the Brazilian menace nearby, that this front will amount to anything but disappointment, so use this time to bolster your cities and bolster your air force to acceptable numbers and see me after class, boy. And yet Sweden thought that it was worth giving 347 gold per turn for that victory. I understand the carriers are really scary, but is it worth giving gold to your enemy when you could use that gold to summon another army eastward? If Mark III ends up using the community patch AI, then we'll be seeing less of this, which both makes me saddened and excited for whatever the future of the Battle Royale entails. Mostly saddened because just look at the background of this slide. Seriously. Look. Here's a joke. A Brazilian and a Blackfoot paratrooper walk into a bar. They then stay there for thousands of years. The end. Yeah. In other less humiliating news, it appears Iceland got friends from high places, namely the Boers, Australia, Brazil, Inuit, and pretty much everyone else. It seems like the AI changes make them more aggressive, yes, but it seems they also make them aggressively friendly, as I've never seen this many nations actively reject a civilization embargo. Ingolfer, you diplomatic master, teach me your secrets. And Wollongara Falls costing the city only 2 citizens in the flip. Considering how heavily populated that city was, it was saved. It was spared. Wollongara might still be the world's largest city, and now thanks to Boer's heavenly protection, it might grow to be healthier and stronger than it ever was. Pictured is a small navy fighting the encroaching Boer army. Remember, this army has Skynet on its side, so even an evenly matched army wouldn't fare. Also, whatever happened to the AI between the reboot really helped out carriers, as more planes than ever are filling them up. I can see at least 2 in the top left alone, so go get 'em, Kruger. Show 'em how it's done. After briefly cleaning my mouth out with a combination of soap and bleach from hearing myself congratulating the Boers, we look elsewhere to see Lahore owned and in firm grip as Kimberly amusingly stage an attack on the Indian city. Vietnam, please issue an immediate emergency, as Lahore is mere cities away from your capital and is probably in nuke range. I'd be very careful indeed. When the Boer hammer falls again, it might be too late. That is, unless Brazil does it first. Huh. Hebron was traded in the peace deal. That's pretty neat and serves as an amazing nest egg for planes to come bearing down on Tigran and potentially Constantinople. It's also protected by Boer territory, which has ballooned out of control, even owning tiles in the Black Sea now, which hosts an empty carrier. Oh, okay, how did you get there? Are we seeing unit teleportation on a naval scale now? In fact, yes, we are, as there is no way a unit got lodged in the lake just north of Varna, and the plane's just off Adrianople. This teleporting has gone out of hand. Has Big Carrier gone too far? Without the Boer war machine, Vietnam can move its vastly superior units through the Blackfoot and Kimberley unit maze and capture the zero-health city of Vagan. With how this war is looking and the units visible in the screenshot, I might draw the new battle line off of Vagan and at Cebu. If Parks wants to hold his southeastern holdings for long, he should jettison from this war pronto and maintain the ever-valuable beachhead he sacrificed millions of diggers for. Oh, Kimberly, you could have done something great, but the Boer moved next door. I don't see the life for Sri Lanka being that good either, as Boers are infamous in the reboot for devouring all of the smaller, weaker civilizations. Buccaneers, you better tech up before the Boers get ya. Oh, good Sitting Bull, the Boers have a navy. Yankanara and Djharnjin better be spooked because Boar is coming for their really useless and strategically devoid cities. Oh no. This might look like a clever act of war, but judging from the types and health of the units, it's actually an act of friendship. This disgusting act of friendship also coincides with the Buccaneer-sponsored Big Carrier World Tour, crossing the nation, making it stop in all the famous locations such as the inaugural Port Royale, our lovely voice narrator's favorite Javefefefefle, and now another classic such as Gulu Bulu 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 Mili Bari Yari. To attend, just navigate through the local, totally friendly Brazilian carpet. Attend now and you won't miss the lecture from Gandhi on the new type of warfare being introduced in this latest variant of how to fight wars good. Attend now! Speaking of that city, the front in northern Sweden seems to be pushing deeper. People kept on counting Sweden out, but it seems that their tendency to fight when down has nettled them on the ability to stay alive. But at what cost? Europe is in shambles, and now the Boer are done with Vietnam. A sweep of gray over this area better happen soon, or else a sweep of green or orange will come in its place. Gustavus, your life might already be over, so enjoy the small victories that they exist. Brazil is like long hair. Impossible to maintain, it just grows everywhere it can and clumps every drain it can find. In this case, it's blocking every unit from being produced. I wouldn't be surprised if Korea couldn't do much of anything due to the amount of units. For now, build an opera house and wait, Korea, and then fill your land, else irrelevance is in your future. I think even the Boers know that a huge amount of Brazilians are seemingly waiting and watching to fill their new lands. A Brazilian paratrooper confirms that there is open border, so then why isn't he clumping up in here yet? Why wait on the border with a huge military and not attack? Maybe he's heading to visit his bros in Central Africa. How ironic would it be for the Boers to kill Kimberley, a nation without its original capital, while it loses its capital and main continent in 10 turns? I would be laughing, that's for sure. Something troubling this war for all parties is the fact that every land tile is occupied by Brazilian units, almost forcing Iceland to actually build navy or infrastructure. Could we see a carpet of actually useful units fill these waters for the inevitable war? Judging from the armies of the sub and a few melee units, that's quite unlikely. How? Oh, the barbarian carrier went rogue from Buccaneer's passive and is actually threatening an assault on Keflavik? Was this the same carrier? Why didn't anyone attack? Maybe it's because they are all carriers and embarked units. Nevertheless, while a war with the Inuit has ended, Iceland shall never see the end of war. The Blackfoot are kind of insane with their military. They might be outdated, but their mountainous terrain and flood of units and air force is amazing. It might lack the stopping power, but it's flooding everywhere, and eventually they'll tech up. In regards to the famous biotrooper seen around the cylinder, they might not have been placed by us or the tech that they don't actually have. I'm almost certain the Inuit have given them up, and it's a gifting of their military to their best friends in the entire world. In actuality, their player didn't want to play, so before DCing, he gifted all of their units to their best bud. Honestly, for the sake of relevant America, I hope that's the case. Blackfoot Nation would be far, far superior to an Inuit one, is all but food and snow cities, but as we can prove with Sabir, even a nation without biases for those tiles can still thrive. Hashtag Way of the Buffalo. Nestorianism is founded in the gap that is Catholicism. For the sake of this religion, I hope an Inquisitor is brought pronto, else we'll see this flame burn bright. It's also a terrible move, as now they possess a religion that no one else has. I think you guys should glance down to your keyboard and think of the letter F, because now with this modifier, I think it's coming. Kekkonen, you bold man, you. Unrelated focus of what's inside, I think Vietnam better escape now or else they'll be trapped in a wall of borders. Thankfully, there's no melee unit visible in the slightest, so the duration that this will be surrounded from all sides should be plenty long. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it took so long that by the time that city flipped, Brazil or Vietnam would gobble them up in the front of them. Holy hell, that's a lot of information. namely the fact that they want a lot of oil and pretty badly. From sending a lot of stuff to the former rival Finland to giving a truckload of nanomaterials to the Boer armies, there's so much individual stuff going on. Let's hope that this aggressive friendship continues and everybody gets what they want before they inevitably destroy themselves. This amuses me to no degree, but my favorite is that they were giving a majority of their uranium supply to the Boers and the Inuit. Memory serves that they have roughly 16 uranium in those lands that I personally placed, so dang. I guess they really don't need their supplies yet, as they think nothing bad will happen to them, right? Mongolian tea is sailing worldwide as it goes to local micro powers such as Kimberley and Hawaii. They're importing every luxury possible as well as uranium from the Australians and the Kimberley. What are you planning, Genghis? Also amusing is the fact that they're asking for specifically one oil from Vietnam, for which they bought it with gold, it seems like. I imagine they're the kind of people who would ask for one Skittle at a party. Humble little man, Genghis is. "There's nothing in the world you can't buy with enough oil," quoth a man screaming off his rocker in a Boer suburb as he witnesses the fact that the Kimberley is delivering 27 oil worldwide, including 10 alone to Sweden, as well as giving off 10 uranium. Just how are they getting all of those resources, and wouldn't they be useful in clearing incoming armies? Compared to others, the trade history of Henry Parks is rather Spartan, only receiving for a bit of oil from Exclavia and giving the same amount from the Boer core. They seem definitely Spartan, but the furs he got from Mongolia were worth their weight in uranium. The Boers apparently dislike Vietnam still, and Sibir. Meanwhile, Korea and Sibir aren't best buds at the moment. Vietnam is looking to rip the Sri Lankan stain off the map to either pretty their lands or to grant relevance to them before the non-relevance paradox opens a hole in the space and time and kills us all. Smart move. Blackfoot wants to probably kill Hawaii for the same reason, I'm pretty certain of that. However, unfortunate to my original prediction, it seems like Brazil doesn't care about any empires and only cares about its square miles of paratroopers it will no doubt create. And right when I make that joke, Brazil just has to go ahead and make me shove my foot in my mouth. Thanks, Brazil. Australia and Brazil seem to now hate each other, which makes sense. They're both green, and with the eventual destruction of Vietnam, they need to prove who is best. A war here would be, well, laughable. They'll be exiled to Townsville faster than the opening of Fairly Odd Parents. Or wasn't it the Powerpuff Girls? Or do they live in the same city? Guys, this is good, right? I mean, two of the world powers are denouncing each other, and that's a good thing. War is good. Will this game be ended by the new type of warfare, TM? Nope, this is actually hype. I wouldn't be surprised to see the hammer dropped, although this declaration means little for the open borders agreement the empires have. Once it expires, though, it seems increasingly unlikely that a war will not happen between these two empires. I think Brazil is ready, but are we ready for the outcome? I repeat, are you ready for the outcome? Sibir is the farthest away from Brazil, but even then, the entirety of Boer core is now stuffed. A war would see the most amount of units and population death pretty much in the entire game history combined. It would be glorious, so there's that. This overflow has effectively halted the taking of Hebron, but the ever-brave Sibir worker maintains the iron grip the Sibir has on Yerevan. My only thought right now is what's going on through Kruger's mind as his continent becomes overrun by the Green Menace. Meanwhile, in a sane spot of the world not dominated by Brazil's absurd navy, we see the front pushing ever so farther back as the battle goes to Leningrad and Kharkov. We've seen so much chaos since this part started, but how much farther will it go? How much is enough? Meanwhile, Leningrad, taking after its original owner, has become a city of the workers, staging celebrations on the east side of the town. Gods are strong! For real, it's actually pretty up there. Producing over 184 science in this city is no joke, and containing all the national wonders and soon-to-be ironworks means a lot for this city's growth. The random tile of border gore also provides a hefty 10 gold. It amazes me how strong the city can be. For instance, a game in modern era had my 46 population capital produce a whopping 226 science. This was with a lot of science buildings and great people improvements. To be fair, that had 292 production, but that's incredibly impressive nonetheless. Hey, the Blackfoot declare war on the Kimberly. I mean, yeah, sure, but all you're gonna do is hurt each other's chances of victory. Still, could see some units trading blows and freeing us some spots for Vietnam to regrow, so it's useful for someone, I guess. Still, a very puzzling choice. I mean, maybe they're doing it to get in good graces with the Boers, who knows? Blackfoot are sneaky. With the convention over, the Kimberly carrier fleet retreat for more pressing concerns. Perhaps their former capital that was taken, or maybe their cities in the red, burning alive awaiting a sweet death. It seems everyone hates on the Kimberly right now. Here we see our competitors. While they're both compressed by major empires, it's obvious who is on top. If this was a land battle, it would be over, and the Blackfoot would easily be the superior empire. But from this distance, it's hard to see a single city flipping, especially with peacekeepers in the way. Kimberly Aboriginals still have things going for them, namely the 81,000 gold in their treasury, which actually, as we found out, is pretty good at rebuilding a military, and they can use that to defend off all the combatants here, especially with the paltry melee force being tossed their way by the Boers. It'll be interesting to see who will or will not own Kimberly's holdings. Something tells me neither combatant will have a chance. Such as Vietnam, who if they declare war, would have far more damage. I could see them flipping the empire to their satellite states in less than one part of turns. Let's not forget Brazil. From the rafters comes Dom, the Judge Pedro, slamming down hard on Pathin in front of the Boers like a display of grandeur. Oh, Kimberly, I don't know what you did to make the world hate you, but I imagine it's the same forces at play that is keeping the Sri Lankan non-relevance paradox in full effect. Pedro, you could have doomed the sub with your actions. Let's just hope your judgment is soon and quick, for the sake of our sub. Really, Gustavus? All the units available to you and you bring out your artillery to Kulvola? For shame. Oh wait, it's a peace deal between them both? Seems like Gustavus isn't happy enough with most of Europe being in shambles, but is dedicated on bringing the chaos further east. I really am not surprised. Both of these empires are barren and need the sheer amount of workers between them just to keep working. With future world improvements becoming the norm, it appears that right now focusing on upgrading might be for the best, as well as repairing the no doubt dozens of pillaged luxuries in the area. I see 4 sources of dyes smoking alone in this screenshot. While we look upon in horror at the sheer amount of units in Sweden's German holdings, we can see the true heavyweight attacking Jandamarra. It's not even close in almost all regards, and the 800,000 gold treasury means that while Jandamarra can buy a small fleet, Brazil can raise the ocean. This will be an uphill battle that's only reliant on the stream of units flooding in from all directions. Every direction. Godspeed, Jandamarra. We also learned that the Blackfoot may have something in mind. When you have the 2 heavyweight champions fighting the same target, you best join in so you can become buddy-buddy with them. Godspeed. If you can live versus the Boers, the Brazilians, and the Blackfoot, the Triple B team, then you're immortal, and you've ascended past the mortal realm and into the realm of a god. Yeah, move over, Sitting Bull. Nah, that's heresy, I'm sorry. Do go ahead and ascend soon, though. Rion is bored out of being the only god in the building. No, it's Sitting Bull. Sitting Bull. The Boers' population once more is ridiculous, and as the peace deal is exchanged, it seems that Vietnam is just getting worse and worse. Also, please note how much Mongolia has seemed to improve despite the absolutely terrible conditions inside his empire, actually managing a doubling of his population throughout this part. He needs to get internal trade routes going and bad. Speaking of bad, Buccaneers, despite being a coastal empire, are growing slower than expected. He does know that internal trade routes with cargo ships can keep a flatland desert city afloat, right? Oh wait, it's the AI. I don't think he knows anything. Keep on drinking that rum, Morgan. Sri Lanka has less population than Hawaii and almost as much as the Kimberley. Holy good God. Good job, Island Man. Good job. The Boers really have benefited from this war, gaining a lot more hammers over the course of it than any empire really should. From Egypt to India, they've come far and will be rewarded for it. Sibir is spent and Sweden is as well, and they're only two potential competition that isn't Brazil. As much as I hate to say it, the Boers are running away with this, but only Brazil has a chance of stopping them, and I don't rest my laurels on anything Australian being positive. Buccaneers like holy hell. Please remember Buccaneers are still coastal. Possessing that amount of hammers is actually pretty insane. Ocean tiles can, at best, contain 2 hammers per one worked and cannot gain any other improvements. So to see this much hammer is insane. I wonder, maybe the AI was favored to building workshops and other improvements on land, and that's why they are suffering. Imagine if they could use this and actually declare war on the well, actually, no, maybe they could declare war on... No, not Brazil. Well, then keep on keeping on, Bucks, because you're not going anywhere. Maybe you'll make your eventual death a little bit harder for Brazil, the Inuit, or the almighty warmongering Armenia. But, come on, it's the Blackfoot that they're going to take him out. Alas, our wondrous calculations of the wonderful wonders in possession makes me wonder how long other wonders are considered wonders. I mean, once you create an oracle, it doesn't mean that much after the social policy, right? Still, doesn't stop me from building it every single game, that's for sure. Nothing much to note here other than the Swedish and Brazilians containing a pathetically low amount of wonders. People are thinking Brazil could crush this game, and they have the least amount of wonders at all. They don't even have a religion. This is just proof that those who just wonder rush all day long don't often come out on top, especially when someone else can take it from you with absolute ease like the Boer Reich can manage. Also, Babylon doesn't have a single wonder? Nonsense. We have over 10,000 wonders. Ha, our audience. Yeah, it sounds cheesy. Yeah, I felt sick reading it. But thanks, guys, for joining us. In this slide, we have a tough divide with 3 powerful religions: Arianism in Ciudad Juarez, Catholicism in Tokyo, and Lutheranism in Addis Ababa. So many dead civilization capitals with beautiful, strong religions. You know, we were originally going to all narrate every slide at the same time, and as a joke in every slide, my narration would be, "Lunar is typing," and that's it. But we scrapped the idea mainly because it was a joke. However, looking up at the near 4,000 words we dumped, I think I need to stay away from the keyboard, not only for my sake, but for yours. Oh yeah, and Dawkinzz, Javaska, damn it! Ugh, alright. For real though, thanks for keeping around with us, and thanks dearly for being who you are. You've been exactly what has fueled us to work through sleepless nights, and what has fueled us to pull money out of our pockets to keep this show running. The future of the CBR will nevertheless be exciting, and we hope everyone enjoys the ride. Till next album and next Tuesday, keep sane, subgoers. Sincerely, users Limerick Archer, user Rion Monteris, and user Lunar Needle. Out. And my name is Dawkinzz. Thank you for joining us for part 100. I can't believe it's been 100 parts. This has been a long time in the making, and I mean, I know I speak for a lot of us when a lot of those that put this together, but really, thank you so much for sticking around. It really means a lot. This is a labor of love. We do put a lot of, at least effort into this. We're always trying to improve, and we hope that you continue as this journey comes to an end, and we start our next great achievement. But thank you very much. Again, my name is Dawkinzz, and we'll see you next time.